And welcome to the show, everybody. My name is Kevin McDonald, and yes, you're listening to the Satori Show, and with Amy Satori, who is your host, and she's in Boulder, Colorado, and she's right here. Amy, hello, how are you today?
I am beautiful. Oh my goodness, there's a thunderstorm outside, and it is so awesome. It's got me all charged.
Oh, yes.
I am
now,
amped up.
Indeed.
I'm just amped up.
Well, there's a couple things I'd like to talk about first to let everybody know what's happening here. We have moved the show, the live portion of the show, and we're going to start it at 6:30 Mountain Time every Sunday night, and that's 5:30 Pacific. And if you want to join us, you certainly can. We have a team assembled now to really help you, help yourself, and to be able to talk to Amy. Now, there are three of us here, and I'd like to introduce, of course, you've already met Amy, and you know who she is. She's a dynamo. She is utterly amazing at what she does. And the other member of our team, his name is Travis McDonald, and he is the producer, and he is the person that when you call in, he is going to talk to you first. And so when you talk to him, ask him any questions you have about the show or about what they're can expect, and then he's going to put you in what we call the queue, and then he's going to let me know what question you have, and then we'll bring you onto the show so that you can talk directly to Amy. That's the first thing. Second thing is that I want to mention, because I want to bring Travis on, because last episode I mentioned the fact that I had a particular song attack me. And what I mean by that is it came to me in three different instances, and it was right when I started my car, it was right when I changed the channel to a music station, and it was the same song with a really important message for all of us. And so with that, I want to introduce Travis McDonald, the producer, and have him explain what happened to you with that song, Travis.
Well, hello, everybody. So, Monday morning, I fired up my service truck, and the radio was on, and Nothing Else Matters was playing. So, I thought, well, that's a little crazy, because, like, the day before is when Dad was talking about this. So, I waited for him to wake up because we've got different schedules, and I called him and he didn't answer, so I hung up the phone. I was listening to my iPod at the time, and on my iPod I have probably about 50 hours of music on it, and a cover of Nothing Else Matters played right when I hung up the phone.
But not only was it a cover, Travis, who was the cover band that did that song, and what is their relationship to you?
My favorite band in the whole wide world, Godsmack, covered that song on their Live and Inspired album. And
who gave you that album?
Okay, originally I got the album from my uncle who had passed away. I got a Godsmack album by the name of Awake, listened to them, every album since, bought it on the day it came out, every album that they came out with. And so that band, every album that they've ever done has meant something to me at some point in my life. So, love them to death, and all that, and just to have that pop on right when I hung up the phone to talk to my dad about the song that he heard incessantly for a couple days straight was just a synchronicity that was really bizarre.
And I'd like to share one more thing with... I know, and there's one more thing, Amy. You're not going to believe this either. Is that Travis has a friend. He went over to his friend's house. Now, remember, a couple episodes ago, we were talking about you and your house and how the gardener was saying, the landscaper actually, for those that maybe haven't listened to that one, you should go back and listen to it. But the landscaper said, there are plants here that are coming up in the yard that I did not plant. How the heck did that happen? And one of them was a tulip. Travis, tell us about what happened when you walked into your friend's house that night.
There were tulips in a vase on the kitchen table.
Oh my gosh,
so,
me
Amy,
too. No, I'm serious. Like this week, after that happened, I was in the kitchen and came upstairs to the kitchen, and there was a bouquet of tulips sitting on the table. I was like, who are these from? They didn't have any information, and then as soon as I noticed them, they were like gone. I don't know where they came from or where they went, but I had to laugh. That's crazy.
And that tells me that all of this is by design from the other side to let us all know in our own way that we're on the right track and that we are moving forward. And, Amy, you had something else that you referenced, and I believe it was the last show that happened, and that one was about a new dawn. Explain again how that came to be.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh, that was so crazy that day. Well, in the morning, I listen to the Twin Flame Collective videos fairly frequently, and that morning I had listened to about half of one of the videos before I left for work. And she had just said something about, no, that wasn't until I got home. Anyway, so I paused this video. I go to work. I had a decent day, but some weird things that felt awkward were happening, and a number of weird things. And I'd only gotten like 4 hours of sleep that night. So for some odd reason, and this never happens to me, I became really emotional. And it was like I was watching myself do it, and I didn't know why I was doing it, but I was just feeling like Eeyore. I felt like the old me, like a long time ago. And I was even walking down the street, and I had all my guides like bombarding me, trying to cheer me up and trying to make me laugh and everything. And I was like, you guys just need to let me be here for a minute. I just need to be upset for a minute. And they were like, okay, let's just watch her. Let's see how far she goes with this. And I was like, I'm going to be fine. I know I can snap myself back out of this. All I got to do is take a bath or just go outside and be in nature or something. So I knew I could snap out of it, but I insisted, because this is important for you guys too. When you're in a mood, don't shoot on it. Don't act like you shouldn't feel that way. Go ahead and feel it and let it be a wave that ripples through you. Don't hang on to it and don't push it away. So just let it be, and then work your way out of it but from a place of acceptance and that kind of thing. So I was actually going, this kind of feels good. It kind of feels really crappy because I remember how awful I used to feel, but it kind of felt kind of good too, in a really weird way, because I knew I could get right out of it in a second. So it was like jumping into somebody else's life for a second and then jumping back out. So basically, I went home, cried to my roommate, sobbed on her shoulder, which I've never done, but that felt really nice too. Maybe I just needed some nurturing or something. Well, went out back, and so I just moved through all these different things. I talked to a friend. She ended up, just hearing her voice, made me feel so much better. It was just awesome. Snapped right out of it. Another roommate comes in, and she sits down with me, and she said, so, Amy, what's coming up for you this week? And because I'm always bombarded with all this stuff, I just said to her, well, like 1,000,001 synchronicities and signs. How about you? And she laughed. I said, I don't know what they'll be, but I know there'll be 1,000,000 of them. And she just said, God, I love your life, And then she says, well, I said, I had a rough time earlier today. I started to tell her about it. And then she says, well, let's pick some cards. So she just she found some cards on sale, mermaid and dolphin cards, and some goddess cards, but she just grabbed the mermaid and dolphin cards, and she starts spreading them out in a fan in front of me, and she's like, maybe we can get some guidance on this, and and I was just like, okay, let's pick some. So I picked one card, soulmate. The next card, ready, set, go. The third card was be ready to receive. And I thought, wow, that's really, really encouraging cards. But it was funny because I looked at her, I said, I'm surprised I didn't pick the New Dawn, because that's actually the deck that has that card in it. So I kind of laughed. I said, I'm really surprised I didn't pull the new Dawn because, oh, yeah, that's what I forgot. When I first got home, I went home and started to watch the rest of that video. Remember, I was in the funk and everything. I went downstairs and started watching the rest of that video. Right where I left off, kid you not, the reader picks up a card and she said, feminines, you might be going through, like, when you watch this video or soon after, you're going to go through a major emotional upheaval. But just realize it's not you. It's just something that's purging and coming through you that needs to get cleansed. So just roll with it and snap back to yourself afterwards. And my jaw dropped. And then she pulls a card, a new dawn, right? So I was already like, I texted Kevin. I was like, oh my gosh, I was watching this reading and she pulled the new dawn card, which I haven't seen forever. I don't know for how long. It's been forever. So here I was, like a couple hours later, upstairs talking to my roommate. She does a spread for me. 3 awesome cards come out. But then I just stopped there. I was like, those are some great cards. I'm just going to, have those back. And then she goes to put them away. And I said, wait. I said, there's one more card, but you got to pull it. So she says, okay. And she pulls the card, and I kid you not, she, like, jumped. She's like, oh, my God, a new dawn. And so I was like, here we go. And she just shook her head. She's like, oh, my gosh, does it ever end with you? And I was like, pretty much no. Nope, it does not. So that was so funny.
And this is what it means to me is that this show is now the new dawn, and we are going to be taking it to levels that we can only at this moment just imagine.
Yeah.
And you're getting that too, aren't you? Aren't your guides kind of happy with what's going on with us?
They're pretty thrilled. In fact, next hour we have a very special guest coming on the show, and the minute we found out, Kevin just told me a little bit about the guy and the story and when he wanted and why he wanted him on the show, and I was like, yeah, that sounds good, and the minute he starts talking about this guy, I started getting bombarded with messages, and I had to stop them because if I don't have a piece of paper and a pen, and it's like, it's like once they tell me stuff, it's like, okay, we've told her, but I'm not going to remember that, and especially when the show's not till Sunday. So I was like, you guys stop it. I was like putting my hands over my ears, like, seriously, you guys got to stop it. I can't take this right now. You guys have to wait until Sunday, please. And like I'd start to fall asleep, and if I thought about the guy for a second, it would start again, and I'm like, no, I didn't mean to think about him, didn't mean to think his name. Oh my gosh, I can't do it. It was so funny. So I can't wait to see what comes out next hour because I've been putting them off all this time.
Well,
not
they're good.
To go too far into that subject, but.
Well, and but it does bring up an interesting point, and that interesting point to me is that you get this stuff all the time, and it was new for me to have messages so clearly sent that I've actually incorporated it into a new ending that I'm going to be unveiling tonight, and it's just amazing that it did that, and then it's interesting because I told Travis, he called me up after the show that we did, or we were talking, and he said, and I said, guess what? And I was going to tell him something, and he said, you heard that song again, didn't you? And I said, no, for me, 3 times is enough. So what they did was they then attacked Travis.
They do that. And you know what they do, too? They'll start going through your friends. If I have friends that are into music, they'll start sending my friends all these songs. And for some reason, my friends just know that the songs are for me. So I have friends like all over the world pretty much. And these friends will text me or message me and say, I got this. I got the messages for you. So it comes from all angles. I mean, everywhere you go. Yeah.
And so, there's one other. Go ahead, Travis.
I was going to tell that other story that happened on Monday that happened to me that was a pretty darn clear message.
Yeah, tell that one.
So I'm working on a piece of equipment, and it's having just some running problems. And I got it started and had the hood flipped up and all that stuff, and I'm listening to it, but as I'm doing that, I kind of know what the problem is already, so I'm just kind of letting my mind wander, and I'm thinking about, love and how open should I open my heart again, and I'm thinking about putting out the intention to find somebody or along those lines, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I'm thinking about it, and I'm just kind of hanging out, and then a pen that did not come out of my pocket, that I did not see on the machine, falls into the engine fan. It hit the fan in such a way to where that stripped the pen cap off of it. The pen cap hit me in the arm, left a big red welt, and the pen went the other direction. So as I'm thinking about it, I thought that was a pretty darn clear message.
That the other side
you're
was
welcome,
saying,
guys.
"Stop it." Yeah.
You're going to have more and more of these types of experiences. I mean, we were talking about how you got to grow if you're associated with me. If you're going to be in my life, you kind of got to grow, kind of thing. But it also means your life gets more magical. A lot of lessons that come with knowing me.
Well, and I just wanted to say that anybody who is out there that has not talked to Amy Satori, has not sat down with her and had a session with her, you're missing the boat in a big way. Because what she does is she, for some reason, and Amy, you're going to have to help me with this. I don't know how to say this, but other than that, you activate something in people. You activate their connection with the divine, and so that spirit comes and talks to them. Is that how you view that? Is that how that happens?
Well, there seem to be like some channels that open up, and definitely have a frequency to me that kind of clears people's energy fields when they're around me or when they're associated with me. So it kind of helps things to flow easier. So, I mean, even when I do my light language blessings, I've caused some Kundalini awakenings for people. It's all like voice activated, voice and energy activated. Some people who come back and see me in person can say that it's like tangible. When they walk up to me, they can actually feel. It kind of feels like really peaceful and light, and they just feel like reassured. They can just feel like a calm come over them. So yeah, and I do, and my roommates are going nuts with it too, because they're like, ever since we've been living together, we've got all this incredible stuff happening to us. So yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool that you can rub off on people in this way.
So if you would be so kind, because we've referenced the light languages, and some people may not exactly know what we're talking about. So I would ask you at this time, can you give the show and the people who listen to it and the people that are activated by it, can you give them a light language blessing?
Yes, and let me preface this by saying that anyone who's listening to this right now, just relax. This is going to sound really funny, and you can laugh if you want to, but it's basically the language of the angels is one way of calling it, and it is an energy that comes through language, and it bypasses the ego and goes straight to the heart and helps anybody who's listening wherever they need it most. So some people listening may feel it in their hearts. They can feel like an energy radiating from their heart, or they might even feel it in their stomach or their legs, depending on the person. They feel it differently. But people have definitely been healed from it, and they've definitely had Kundalini awakenings from it. So, yeah, you just relax and take a deep breath, and I will go. I have to sit for a moment quietly and kind of let the language come through me. And, yeah. And maybe you guys can report on how it makes you feel afterwards. Hang on. Atin sa la koro po na taina, hai kin sa tap shopozona, Halehitsa tana okapansa. Haleditu nwora ida aira tatensa. Halekosho son na potonsa ikani dapoloprana I. Hala eta se ne keporoposa. Losho son na ki napalai. Ala ela mbosota. Aina pokosha. Asenta poshana de kelarina. Hehe mo osa. Ashesena ka epobo labranaika. Apopotsa nada kereposha. Okay.
Wow.
What did you guys feel?
Well, first of all, the first thing that I want to say is that was nothing short of amazing. That you are able to do that, and it's clear to me that that's not coming from you, that's coming through you. Travis?
I just feel calm.
Yeah, a lot of people feel that too. Yep.
That's just phenomenal. So now we do have on the next episode that we're going to post, we do have an incredible interview that we're going to do with a wonderful young man and his mother, since it is Mother's Day, and I would like to thank all the mothers out there for doing what you do. But we did want to talk
Happy
about
Mother's Day.
Absolutely. We wanted to talk about the Twin Flame Forum and some of the questions that came from that. Can we do that now?
Yeah, and I just want to thank everybody who's in the 1111 Twin Flame Forum for your participation and for your feedback on a regular basis. I really love you guys. I appreciate you so much. Many of you have had readings, and I know about your lives. I may not remember if we talk seldomly, but if we talk on a regular basis, I sure do know your life story, and I understand what's going on. But otherwise, I can tap into the energy of it, of course, whenever we correspond. So, yeah, I'm excited to get to it. Let's do it. Oh, also, wait, before we get to that, Kevin, you didn't explain your role in this little Trinity thing we have going on.
What role would? Okay, you're going to out me right here on the podcast, are you?
What are you?
I just want to say that in January I called Amy based upon a Facebook post that she did, and I really felt the connection that this is something that I needed to be part of, and I needed to use the talents that apparently I've been God-given with to help her to achieve the mission. And so that's my role. My role is for lack of a better term, it's hard for me to talk about me. You know that? I've never done that.
Now you know how it feels when you talk me up. Yeah, it's not very comfortable, is it?
No, I'm sitting here.
You know
squirming.
what you're called? You're an executive producer.
Yes.
You are called the catalyst for this whole thing. You are what created this whole project. Kevin's responsible for all of this, you guys. If he wouldn't have listened to his intuition, if he wouldn't have acted on it and come talk to me, then this whole thing wouldn't have happened. So divine masculines are more intuitive than they realize. And Kevin's learning that now. He's stepping into his power, and he's becoming more intuitive all the time. I think it's beautiful.
It's an amazing, and I'd like to call it a coincidence, but it wasn't. This was divinely inspired that we were going to do this podcast, and that I was going to work with you, and that we were going to go through. And in many ways, Amy, our relationship is kind of like a twin flame, in that over the course, I've known you for a very long time, and in the course of that time, we've been close, we've been apart, we have, and it's like, in some sense, not a romantic sense, but in some sense, we are in union, in partnership with this to bring other twin flames together. Do you agree with that?
Well, yeah, this is called a soulmate. Yeah.
And we're committed to the twin flames. We're committed to getting them to understand what's happening in their lives, because so many of them, when I go through the forum, so many of them are just flabbergasted by what's going on, and they're not quite sure what that all means. As a matter of fact, go ahead.
I just remember. You know me so well. No, I just remembered this conversation that I had with my masculine, telling him about a dream that I had, and I actually referenced a guy's name in that dream, somebody who is trying to sabotage the twin flames. They had heard that I knew how to bring twin flames together, and they were trying to stop me. And I told them about it, and I told them the guy's name in the dream, and I just realized that that's the name of the guy that I went on a date with last week that I talked about on the show. Isn't that crazy?
And yeah, well, and
as you're talking about that, like how we're supporting the twin flames and everything, as you were talking about that, I'm like, oh my gosh, it just dun 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 dun. Whoa.
Well, and didn't that gentleman, for lack of a better term, didn't that gentleman suggest to you that this podcast and what you're doing is something that you should leave behind and not fulfill your destiny on?
Yeah, he didn't even really ask much about the twin flame thing. I think he was just kind of putting the kibosh on it pretty quick. He was like, yeah, you need to jump track off that thing. Like, you need to.
Exactly.
It's like, I'm pulling the plug on that project.
Well, we're not going to allow that to happen because we are here, and we are here for the duration. And so, given that, let's talk about what Rebecca asked. Rebecca Jean said something that she would really like us to talk about on the show, and let me read what her post is. Something I'd love to have you talk about on your show, maybe in a future episode. Excuse me. I think most twins in separation think that once they come together with their twin, that the growing and challenge part will be over, and they don't get triggered or have to face their mirror image anymore. I think the separation gives time to clear a lot, but I imagine after reunion, it's still challenging. I'd love to hear about tools twins can use to be able to face the challenge of the mirror of the twin when they are in union. Maybe if there are twin couples who could talk about this. And we've talked to Maria and Christian. We'll have them on again to address it. But Amy, can you give us some tools? Because I think that's right on, that even though they're in union, they still are in a growth process. Is that close?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the whole objective of twin flames is to create unconditional love. They do that between each other. Well, first off, by themselves and for themselves, they learn to love themselves unconditionally. Then they learn to love each other unconditionally. And then it spreads out through the community and larger, because we're all affecting each other, and that's what I'm referring to as the collective when I'm talking about the twin flame collective. It's how we affect everyone on the planet, for that matter. So that's how we're raising the vibration of the planet and why these guys are so important. But so while you're in separation, it really is, I mean, like I tell everybody, be really patient and be really glad that you're in separation, because you're able to really conquer a lot if you really go deep and go after your issues. So your issues are really only your issues. Your thoughts are what create your suffering ultimately. It's not what the other person is ever doing. And the twin is going to look like they are going to do the same things as your narcissistic counterparts of the past have done. They will look like they're going to cheat on you. They will look like they're going to deceive you. They will look like they are going to be after you for your money, or whatever it is that triggers you that you've had before in the past that you've been afraid of. This twin flame will most likely, to some degree or another, look like they're going to do the same thing to you as people in the past have done. But this person is somebody who has a conscience. They are kind. They are good-hearted people at their core, and they are being pushed by the universe to kind of trigger you on purpose, so that in a safe environment where you are completely unconditionally loved, you are able to address those issues from a totally different angle, if that makes any sense. It's almost like being in a counselor's office versus just being out on your own. It's like somebody's there to spot you almost. When you're in a twin flame relationship, it's like you're totally supported by the divine, and you feel that support, and you feel that love, and you feel this closeness to this person like you've never had before, this real intimacy and vulnerability like you've never been able to have with someone else. And when you've been working with these other people, your karmics of the past, you've had all these fights, and you've had all these other things happen, and you've tried to change them, and you've tried to have all this other stuff happen, and it's like, that's not going to happen with the karmics. They're just supposed to hurt you and make you realize certain things and then out of there. But with the twin flame, they are actually kind of coded in a way to be your perfect complement so that they can get you and you can get them like no other. So you can come together after you've had these misunderstandings and things that happen, and both of you can have these epiphanies and realizations, Satoris, and you can grow exponentially, and you won't even have the same issue come up over and over and over again. It'll be more like, hey, we addressed this, we're doing good, it's going great. And it's like, yeah, it's like more teamwork. It's more of a feel of teamwork, and like we are conquering our stuff. You know, we are facing our shit and we're getting over it. So that's more the feel of what it is with a twin flame versus a karmic, but you're still going to have lessons that are, if you have, let's just say, the more evolved you are, the less the lessons. So if you are really apt to let go of things, and if you're really apt to just go with the flow, and you're pretty darn open, and you know how to take personal responsibility really well, and not put it on your partner, then you are going to glide through a lot faster, and you probably won't have to go through more separations. But if anybody starts like pointing a finger at each other or trying to say, hey, if you just did this different, I would be okay. If you start pointing a finger at each other and start blaming each other, saying that you need to do something to make me feel more comfortable or to make me feel better, then you could cause a separation. However, that's not to say that you can't communicate and say, hey, that made me feel uncomfortable. Will you work with me on this because it makes me feel insecure or whatever that is? Those discussions are going to be there. But it's just a matter of saying, I realize that it's my garbage that I'm bringing from the past. It may not even be anything that you're doing whatsoever. But I'm really sensitive about it because I've had some stuff happen. And then the other person jumps right in and says, hey, yeah, I want to help with that. I'm not going to take that personally that you just said that. Let's work on this issue together. Let's try to heal this together. So it's much more healthy, much more healthy. And if you're both mature enough, like I said, to take personal responsibility and handle this in a mature way, then it'll be a lot better.
Amy, I wanted. Oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Well, I wanted to ask this because I think it plays into it, but I'm not sure. So I'll just ask you because it just popped into my head, and that is this: when you and I started this relationship, when you and I started working together on this podcast, I made the statement that we need to work through any differences that we have with each other within the confines of the relationship, knowing that there are going to be difficulties and there are going to be moments, but that we both need to be able to trust that the relationship, that we will not go outside the relationship, that everything that we need to fix and need to work through is within the confines of the relationship. Is that the commitment that Twin Flames have?
Well, I would like you to elaborate on what you mean by going outside of.
Well, it's like when people get together and then the stories start filling their head and they start thinking about, you know, what's going on, and they start creating all of this guck and stuff about what's really going on and what may not be going on, and so then they decide that they're going to take action and leave, or they're going to do something to disrupt or to sabotage the relationship because they don't think either they're good enough or it's not working or they're not right or whatever, rather than saying, okay, no matter what, we're together. We're a team. We're a partnership. We'll work through whatever we have to work through, but we're going to do it together as a team, rather than telling stories about each other and going outside and talking to friends about how lousy she is and what a crappy guy he is and all that stuff. We're going to be committed to working through it as a team, understanding that we are together no matter what. Unless the caveat there in a relationship, unless there's physical or mental abuse, that sort of thing. But in a twin flame thing, I don't think that's even a question, is it?
Yeah, there's two different things to address right there, because you kind of went real quick through the physical abuse thing.
I did.
I really don't. If somebody's being physically abused or they're flat out, if their twin flame is just mean, like a vicious person, I really doubt that they're your twin flame. I think they're probably your false twin flame. Because twin flames, to me, I mean, that's a spiritual relationship. And how can you be a spiritual being and divided by the divine to come together to raise the vibration of the planet if you're an a-hole or if she's a bee? So, you know what I mean? It's like, come on. I think you probably just have a really big crush on that person, or you may even have tons of synchronicities, because the false twin will actually, and some don't believe in the false twin, but I'm just using it as lack of a better term. You are just not going to, they're just not going to have the same heart. You know a real twin flame by their heart. So this is going to be a good-hearted person, period. So if you're with somebody who is beating you up or being just outrightly abusive or disrespectful or awful to you, run. And don't worry, because you'll find the other one. The other one will come to you in time as you grow more in yourself. The more you love yourself and the more you come into alignment with yourself, you're going to bring that perfect person to you. And now when I say perfect for you, not a perfect person. So, and
there's
yes,
no such thing
ideally, as that. Exactly. So yes, ideally, some couples would come together and have that same agreement that you and I had. It doesn't always happen. No, I can't say that all twin flames act like that. No, some twin flames come together too soon, and they can be pretty darn immature, and then they end up separating for a bit, and then they come together as two totally different people. So it's really amazing that they grow very, very rapidly. They tend to really be a catalyst for each other. So that's really beautiful. But yes, I mean, those listening to this, both the masculines and the feminines, it would be incredible if you could have that conversation with your twin when you come together and just have that agreement. That would be the best way to handle the situation, honestly. But if you do end up going into separation, just really focus on loving yourself and focus on just growing up. And some of those tools, like Rebecca had asked about some specific tools. It's different for everybody, and everybody's got their thing, but I really recommend Byron Katie's work a lot because it's so simple, it's so easy. It's just 4 questions and some turnarounds. It takes about a half an hour to 45 minutes to work on a thought. But basically what it does is reprograms your brain to be able to let go of any kind of a stressful or negative thought. And it just brings you into the flow of life and doesn't allow you to react to those stories like you used to. It eventually makes you more and more and more free till nothing really bothers you anymore. You could have all kinds of things happening right in front of you and nothing would really trigger you. Nothing's going to make you emotionally react in a negative way that's going to make you say, that's not fair, I can't believe you did that, blah, blah, blah. None of that stuff's going to happen. So, but it takes time to do that, and it takes dedication to her work, and I would suggest people do it every single day or every single time they stress out about something, because that's the most effective way to make that work happen. She calls it the work. And it really is phenomenal. I really do feel like it can replace any counseling in a heartbeat. Counseling is expensive. It's really not as effective, I don't believe, and there should be a disclaimer with that. This is for entertainment purposes only, not to be taken seriously whatsoever. But honestly, it's like if you do Byron Katie's work, you will not have to do anything else, because it really brings you back to taking personal responsibility. It just takes you back to yourself, back to yourself, back to yourself, and you realize the only thing that can ever truly make you suffer is a thought. That's it. So another thing I would recommend would be Eckhart Tolle's A New Earth. He really teaches about the ego and how the ego makes us sin pretty much, or is our sin. And the ego really can take a grip on us and pull us down and make us do all kinds of things out of insecurity and out of guilt and out of fear. And it can basically keep us from stepping into our power and being our authentic selves and living the life that God wants us to live. So if we can step out of our ego and learn the tricks of the ego and what it does to kind of snag us rather than us being one with God and being in that source energy and letting it flow through us and letting us be like inspired to do those brave and courageous and beautiful, wonderful, risky things that we're drawn to do, like doing a podcast. And, that's a really another great way to go. I think you're the most powerful thing you can possibly do on your path as a twin flame, or anybody, any human being, is to be present in the moment and learn to have a healthy relationship with the moment and let go of the concept of time and be one with God and hold his hand and basically let life lead you, and just like you could call it living the will of God, but it's really, just living in the Holy Spirit or living in Christ consciousness. And just being totally in the moment, not worrying about the future, not worrying about the past, but being totally concentrated on the here and now and not allowing your thoughts to dictate what you do or don't do. And that's really living authentically. Gangaji is a great way to also learn who you truly are. Muji guided meditations really point you to who you are. And I'm trying to think of any other tools that Matt Kahn's video. He has a video called Respecting the Shadow on YouTube that's free that you could watch. And in there is a really great tool for dealing with negative feelings as they arise as well. And actually, if either you or Travis have felt something recently that's negative, I can take you through the exercise real quick and with our audience. And you can replace the word like anger or frustration. You could replace the word. Anybody can replace it with anything they're going through. So you can do the same exact exercise, only replace it with your word. You want to do that?
Well, before we do that, you've referenced a bunch of people, but I want to reference Amy Satori. And I want Amy Satori to give us perhaps her version from the other side. What do they say? What sense do you get about some tools that you would have people use?
Okay, hang on a minute. Well, it's like put it in a bubble and let it go. I mean, that sounds really simple. But that's one of the things that they're telling me is something that's really organic that you could do in your mind. Take the whole experience and everything that you feel from it and put it in a bubble and let it just go. I know that sounds really simple, but...
But let me harp in here, because I believe that anything that is hard, we're not going to do. And when you can transform that into, this is easy, then it works.
Mm-hmm. Well, and there's also... one of the things I recommend as well is like make a list of things that you do throughout your day, like go to the bathroom, make a sandwich or whatever you make your meals. So you got to do that at least 3 times a day. Think of all the things that you do repeatedly all day long, write those things down, and then decide that while you do those things, washing the dishes or whatever you got to do, while you do those things, be so in the moment and be so whatever you're into whatever you're into that you totally forget space and time. So you're in the bathroom and you look at the toilet paper and just examine the toilet paper and don't even pretend you're an alien from another planet and you've never been here and you don't know whether anything's good or bad. You don't make up a story about anything. You don't even know what toilet paper is used for. You're just looking at it and kind of fascinated. Wow. You wouldn't even call something a design. I was going to say, you look at it and say, wow, what a design. Wow. Look at the texture. But you wouldn't even use those words. You'd just be fascinated by looking at it, right? You could look at the wall and be like, wow, look at the texture on that wall, or feel the wall. But be really into the experience, whatever the experience is. It could be washing the dishes. And in that case, you'd be like, wow, feel the sensation of the water running through your fingers and how incredible that is. Watch the soap pour onto your hand or pour onto the plate or whatever it is. So that's another thing that you can do frequently to kind of stay in the moment. What it does is it starts to free up our higher self is always trying to talk to us and give us guidance and give us great ideas and inspiration. But as much as we're trying to think and control, it's like we clog the energy up, like pipes get clogged. The more that we get our minds to let go of those egoic types of thoughts of trying to figure stuff out, and the more you get in the moment and let go of all labels, the more it starts to break apart that clog. And the more information can come through from the divine, giving you guidance and helping you in your life.
Because that's one of the things that you are really, really good at, helping people eliminate some of those clogs that they can. Well, I'll give you an example. You know, in Hawaii right now, Kilauea is the volcano is real active. They're saying right now that what's happening is that the lava lake that's in there is retracting, and it's going to get plugged up. What happens when something gets plugged up, like your energy gets plugged up? Eventually, it's going to explode.
Well, yeah. All kinds of things can happen when you have a blockage in the body. But this is an energetic blockage, but still, yeah, it's
exactly.
It just makes it really difficult. Just like when the chakras get blocked too. It's a good thing. I do sometimes when I'm feeling like I just want to flow a bit better, I'll do a 20-minute chakra clearing, a meditation on YouTube or something like that. It just really relaxes you and clears out your chakras and just makes things more smooth.
I wanted to say that the one thing that really works for me is one of my hobbies. Like, get into something that you used to do or that you've done before or that you know how to do, or even learn something new and just lose yourself in it.
Yeah.
You will come up with some really surprising stuff that floats to the surface when you're not thinking about anything else but what it is that's in front of you.
Yes, even coloring in a color book.
Coloring, drawing. I went through a really bad time last summer. I built a couch. There was nothing going through my mind but what was happening with the couch that I was making. And it really helped me come through a lot of blockages, a lot of crap that I was telling myself, and it's just not thinking about anything else and letting your problems, it just floats up one by one without even trying. And you can work through it.
Yeah, and working on your communication skills obviously will help too for when you come into union. If you can practice having healthy boundaries with people, with setting people in their place when they're crossing over, things like that will help as well. Communication
Awesome.
and keeping out of your head and telling yourself stories is going to really help a lot.
Yes, it is. Because most. Go ahead.
Well, am I right in thinking that there shouldn't be anything off limits in a relationship of that caliber? You should be able to just bring up, you should be able to just bring up anything, like something that you didn't like that they did, or something that, like you were saying, made you uncomfortable or whatever. You should be able to just say it without worrying.
It depends. It depends because you don't want to nitpick, and a lot of things like that are really about you. It's your own irritation with yourself. That's what I'm talking about taking personal responsibility. Like, if you think that they're being too loud, there's probably an area in your life where you're being too loud. You got to look at that, not them. Because what happens if we start to focus on the other person and say, you really should do that better, or you really should do this better, what you're actually meaning to say that in the mirror. That's one thing about twin flames, is they are your mirror. And this is, as far, we project onto everybody that we interact with, but in this type of relationship, you really want to see yourself, not them. Have you ever gotten in a fight with somebody and they didn't say anything back? They were just quiet, and then they walked out of the room, and what you just said was really stupid and maybe even wrong, and maybe even like you were just trying to get a rise out of them, and they left you in that silence, and you're sitting there going, I kind of feel like a jackass right now. So, but that's because you're seeing yourself. If they interact with you and they take it and they argue with you back, then you've got, oh, good, they took it. And then they give it back to you, and then you give it back to them, and nobody learns and nobody grows. You're just playing ping pong with who gets to take the responsibility. But when you are upset about something, if instead of saying something to them about it, depending on what the issue is, it'd be better if you could say, gosh, I'm kind of feeling insecure about whatever this is, and then instead of saying something to them, you like go home and do Byron Katie's work with it and you write it down. Or I have another exercise you could use as well. It's called, thank you, God, for my misery. So you would write at the top of a sheet of paper and you would say, thank you, God, that my partner is a flirt. And then you would write down all of the reasons why that is a benefit or an advantage to you in your life and why that's a good thing. And you would just write all those down and you would start to see how you're actually being supported in that. And then, yes, maybe if you're not feeling triggered at that moment, you're not feeling hurt, you've done the exercise and you really feel kind of centered in it and you feel good and you feel like, okay, I feel supported, I feel okay, and I'm going to go ahead and mention this, then you're not going to get, you're taking responsibility and you're asking them to kind of team up with you and partner with you about that. But I would just make sure that you're not coming from a place of reaction, because if you're coming from a place of reaction, that's all you, buddy. You know what I mean? That means you haven't worked through your stuff. This is why people are in separation for a while, is they really have to get this before they come into union and they're able to stay there.
Speaking of being... go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, and yes, it's like at the same time as you can say, yes, like nothing should be off limits for you guys to be able to talk about, there should also be like a feeling of, well, if you don't want to talk about it, we don't need to talk about it either. So it's like just a real nice mutual respect for where each person is at. It's really about where you both feel you need to be, but it does definitely have the potential to be a situation in which you both can be completely yourselves and tell each other anything, and it should be a safe place. But you might have to get to that level.
But twin flames, don't they have that innate commitment to want to get to that level?
Yeah, that's a good point, because that is one thing that kind of stands out about twin flames over normal people, in quotes. Normal people could care less about growing. Twin flames, they always have a conscience. It kind of plagues them. They hate lying. They hate having to, hurt people. I mean, it just really bothers them. So they're always driven to, but twin flames have also been hurt quite a bit, and that was by design as well. So they could overcome that and help others overcome it as well. So it's like you went through this boot camp that was kind of traumatic. Now it's up to us to open our hearts again and say, you know what, this is an entirely different situation, a very different scenario. This is fresh, this is new, and I'm not going to bring all that old stuff forward. I'm going to see this person as a brand new person, like we just met at 13 years old, and all that stuff didn't happen. And we are going to trust, and we are going to confide, and we are going to be silly and stupid and say the wrong things and be dorks, and it'll be okay. You got to get to that place where you're not in that people-pleasing mode, trying to be something for the other person, trying to be basically what you were with your karmics. You might have had to put on a song and dance with the karmics, or they did it with you, but no more song and dance, unless it's a song and dance you like the Humpty Dance.
I would like to. Amy, we need to close this podcast out because we've got our guest coming on in a few moments. But first, for those that are interested in having hope, there's a lady named Juliet that sent us a message. So I'd like to read that and get Amy's response. We are both seniors. Met when we were teenagers. He left for college overseas, and later I was at the same college but found him living with a woman. I let him go. Didn't know anything about twin flames at the time. Went ahead with my life, got married and divorced, married again, and was widowed 10 months ago. My twin flame and I were friends on Facebook after he found out that I was widowed, expressed on social media that he wanted a romantic relationship. I've always loved him. He is divorced and has an adult child. We haven't seen each other in 46 years. He's coming to our homeland from overseas later this month on business. Looking forward to seeing him. Can you give Juliet a message?
Wow. Wow.
That's a good message.
That is so beautiful. That is so beautiful. Okay, hang on a minute. Oh my God. That man is on a mission. That man is on a mission. He knows what he wants and he's going to have it. So, if this is Juliet.
It's Juliet.
Yeah, well, yeah, Juliet. Romeo is on his way. Yeah, no, he's actually feeling like he is so determined that he's not going to let anything get in the way again. It's like you've slipped through his fingers so many times, and he is like, I am not. He is so determined. It's like, I am not going to let anything stand in my way ever again. So it's almost as if he'll be at the airport, like pushing people aside. Like, nothing's going to stop me. And I don't care if the car that he's taking to come see you breaks down. I don't care if all his clothes fall out of his suitcase. I don't care if he gets robbed. I don't care what happens to this man. He is going to get to you. So be expecting romance because you're not going to be let down. I can't believe we've got like an actual Romeo and Juliet on the show.
Of the senior set. But it's taken 46 years for them to come together.
That's so awesome. No, but they're definitely like he won't be held back. I actually feel tears in his eyes. This man wants to be with her so bad.
That is a really wonderful story. And Juliet, we wish you really a lot of success and with your senior lover, and it's going to be an awesome time for you both. Are you there, Amy?
Yeah, no, I was just thinking whether it would be appropriate to mention something or not, but it's like, sex doesn't have to stop when you're a senior.
No, they say that still
They're
works.
Very active.
Still works, still use it. Yeah. So, well, with that, and I hope you have enjoyed this podcast, and please go to www.amysatori.com and book a session with her because she is so intuitive that she can actually raise your vibrational level, and so that you become more intuitive as well, and you can get rid of some of the blockages, the emotional and energetic blockages that you may have. Amy, is there anything you'd like to say before we wrap up this podcast?
There was something I planned to say earlier, but it just totally jumped out of my head, so I guess not. Have a great evening, everybody who's on the line listening. Thank you. And
if something else pops into your head, we can use that as well. So.
Yeah. No.
Okay. But remember, what do you always say?
Yeah, just remember, fear isn't real. Fear isn't real.
And
it's not real.
No. And based upon the messages that I've been given of late, which I had no idea that I could even get messages, but until I met this lady, and now I get messages. This message is, forever trust in who we really are, and nothing else matters. We'll see you next time on The Satori Show. You've been listening to The Satori Show. Please visit Amy's website, www.amysatori.com, to find out more about this incredible talent. The views expressed during this podcast are those of the host, guests, and callers, and are not necessarily those of management or the owners of this podcast. What you need to know is that Amy is a wonderful teacher, guide, and communicator for the unseen world. What she does not pretend to be is a doctor, fortune teller, seer of world events, or predictor of what is to come. What Amy presents is real, based on her understanding of the world and communication with that unseen world. As always, you're free to decide for yourself as to what to believe. Regardless, we love and accept you completely just as you are. And thanks again for listening to The Satori Show.